Hello, my beautiful gratitude babes. Welcome back to the Gratitude is Yummy pod. This is episode number 10, and I am so grateful that you are here floating with me on our yummy frequency that we are creating here. This topic, the topic of today's episode, it actually just came up yesterday as we turned into the new year, and I was catching up with one of my friends after months of not speaking. And we're just like catching up on everything in our life that's happened since we last connected. And we're trading dating stories. And I shared about a recent connection that I made that ended just as quickly as it became intense. And before I go any further, I just want to be really clear here. This episode comes from a very grounded place in my heart right now. This is not a story time. There's no tea to be had here. This is not me rehashing anything or harboring any kind of resentment or bitterness. This is a lesson, a moment of clarity that I hope reaches the person who perhaps needs it right now, because I do see women confuse intensity with alignment all the time. And I know this because I've done it time and time again. You know, as I was talking this through with my friend, someone I consider one of my closest teachers and spiritual guides, and something really important clarified for me. I mean, so much happened in the moment with the individual I was seeing, but as I was talking it through yesterday, something just it clicked. Something about love, about safety, about standards. I was reminded how powerful self-trust becomes when you stop overriding it. Because, all right, here's what I'll share without getting into the gritty details. I met someone. We connected deeply, very quickly. There was depth, there was chemistry, there was emotional intensity. Another layer that made it even more compelling was this. He was also a coach. I'm a coach. We speak the same language, around growth and healing and self-awareness. There was a really deep spiritual resonance there, a sense of familiarity, a feeling of being seen on a soul level. And for a moment, it really did feel like, oh my God, this could really be it. Like, this could be something. And then something shifted. This happened about 2 months in. And listen, nothing dramatic happened. Again, there's no tea here. There was no explosion, no scandal, no betrayal. Just a moment that felt off. It was framed as playful, but it landed as disrespectful in my body, right? After that moment, my nervous system just stopped feeling safe with this person. My body felt unsettled with this person. What mattered more than the moment itself, though, was what happened after. The explanations, the justifications, the framing of it as something to work through. But something inside me was like very clearly no. Like, there was no question. I didn't even have to analyze it. I didn't have to make a pros and cons list. I didn't need 10 conversations to explain. I just listened to that inner guidance. Because this wasn't a conversation to have. There was no misunderstanding. And it wasn't something I wanted to process my way out of. For me, there are certain things in love that should never require discussion. Things like respect, emotional safety, kindness, even when emotions are high. These aren't preferences. These are foundations. If something needs to be reasoned into place, it's not aligned. That's a no for me. And that realization didn't come from fear. It came from sheer presence. Okay, this is where I think we get confused as women sometimes, especially as conscious women, because when someone is emotionally aware, when they're spiritual, when they can articulate feelings and talk about repair, we tell ourselves that this must mean we're aligned, right? But here's something I learned very quickly. Spiritual awareness is not the same thing as embodiment. Being able to talk about respect is not the same as living it instinctively. Okay, a lot of people know how to talk the talk, but are they walking in it? Right. We're taught that if something feels off, we should talk it through. If something hurts, we should process it. If someone is willing to repair, we should try. And that these are all true things. Communication is a beautiful thing. Repair does matter. But there's certain situations that aren't about repair. Because the truth is, nothing's broken. It's just information you're receiving that you need to discern. Okay, nothing's broken here. He's not broken, I'm not broken. There's just the disconnect. This wasn't about someone needing to learn how to love me better. This was about values, fundamental values. For me, respect and emotional safety are not negotiable. It's not something we have to have a conversation about. They're not contextual. They're not playful. They're not situational. They are foundation. I realized something very, very clearly. I don't want a partner who needs to harmonize around those values with me. Like, I want someone who already lives from them without trying, without effort, without having to be coached to, without being, having to have a conversation about it. Does that make sense? Like, when I named that something didn't feel right, the response I received was absolutely sincere. It was emotional, it was thoughtful, very much from let's talk it through place, which again, there's nothing wrong with that. But here's where I had trouble. At least here's my truth. There was nothing to talk about. We weren't in conflict. I wasn't in, okay, maybe I have to speak for myself. I wasn't in conflict. I was just merely in discernment. And discernment doesn't need conversation. It just needs honesty. Just be honest about what you're seeing and the decision you're making from the information you're receiving. That's all you got to do. I wasn't avoiding anything. I wasn't scared of intimacy. I wasn't closing my heart. In fact, my heart has never been more open. I was honoring peace for both of us. Because let's be real, peace doesn't express itself through disrespect. A man in peace doesn't exhibit certain behaviors. I was just honoring clarity. And there's a difference between avoiding a discussion and honoring clarity. Some people stay because they believe everything is flexible and fixable, including their values. Others walk away because they recognize what isn't meant to be fixed, only chosen or released. Neither is wrong, just pointing out that they are not the same. You can care very deeply about someone and still know that they are not your person. And that part matters. Love without emotional safety is not the love I'm available for anymore. And the truth is, this is because I live in a place where I have respect for myself. I respect myself. I hold myself to a high regard. So it's hard to allow anybody to treat me any different than I treat myself. Right? And this is what my gratitude practice has helped me cultivate. Gratitude has been my anchor in my self-trust. In my self-trust. Right? Gratitude is what slows me down. It's what brings me into my body, into my breath, into my knowing. And from that place, I wasn't angry at all. I wasn't defensive either. I wasn't trying to convince anyone of anything. I was just clear. Gratitude doesn't say, stay and fix this. Gratitude said, listen, discern, take in the information, and decide if you want to participate. It's just that simple. What I heard was very, very simple. This isn't the energy I want to build my life inside of. Practicing gratitude every single day has trained me to listen to my body instead of overriding it. When you're deeply grateful, you're not desperate. You're not forcing things. You're not trying to make something work just because it feels intense and spiritual and familiar. Gratitude anchors you into presence and abundance. It reminds you that nothing meant for you requires you to abandon yourself. When you're grateful, you're fully present. And when you're present, you notice subtle misalignment. And when you notice, you don't need to argue. You don't need agreement. You don't need to defend. You don't need any of that. You just need honesty. So instead of asking, how do I fix this? I ask my body, how does this feel? How does this feel within our auric field? Like, how does this feel? Does this align with who we are and the life we want to create? Right? My body was very freaking clear because alignment feels calm. Love feels kind always, even if tensions are high or low. Love always feels kind. Safety feels steady. Okay? Anything that requires you to explain why you deserve respect is already not it, my love. Some things are not conflicts, they are clarifications. And real gratitude makes those clarifications impossible to ignore. You know, walking away didn't mean I didn't care. It just meant that I cared about myself enough to trust what I felt. If you're listening to this and something in your life doesn't feel safe, I want you to hear this. You don't need more conversations around it. You don't need justifications. You don't need permission. You just need self-trust. And if you're thinking, oh, I keep explaining myself like about all the things that feel obvious to me, or I feel like I'm coaching someone into kindness, or I'm talking more than I'm resting, my love, that's not growth. That's self-abandonment. Gratitude doesn't ask you to tolerate more. It asks you to trust more. And sometimes the most grateful thing you can do is walk away, because you're always going to do it peacefully when you're in gratitude. Your nervous system knows before your mind does. And the more you practice gratitude, the easier it becomes to hear your inner guidance, that inner yes or no, without fear. That's the work. That is the frequency. That is the embodiment. If you stayed and listened all the way through, thank you for holding space with me. And if this episode landed, sit with it. Let it integrate. I love you all. I am so grateful for your growth, because everyone who heals truly heals the world. You don't do it just for you. You do it for all of us. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I'll see you in the next episode. Ciao.